Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to episode 251 of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. The brothers Maxon here with you. I'm Nate, that's Aaron.
Hello, everybody.
And this week we are going to be we're continuing, of course, our journey through the Clash of the Champions. The Clash of the Champions series continues here, and we are on to November 15th, 1989, Troy, New York, Clash of the Champions 9, and I always jokingly call it New Knock York Out. Because that's the way I read that.
What I was going to ask is if you thought it was funny, as funny as I did.
New Knock York Out. Yes, the logo reads New Knock York Out in my brain.
Yeah. It's like when Rick woke up and it was like, "Don't dead open inside," and he's like, "What?"
I didn't even think about that.
I know they didn't sell it on The Walking Dead, but if you're Rick and you wake up and it says "Don't dead open inside,"
yeah, it's like, what, is this supposed to be deep? What is this?
You'd be like, what the fuck does that mean? Is this like an Andy Warhol painting? I don't understand what I'm looking at. But yeah, New Knock York Out. It's repeated in my note. New York Out.
New Knock York Out. It's actually New York Knockout, which everybody knows. But like I said, the way that logo is stylized, that's how it reads in my brain every time. It's funny. I thought I was the only one. So
nope, you're not.
Also, as we record here on May
Rigmarole 7th, might agree too. I saw that he was happy we were alive.
Yeah, so. Yeah. It's glad somebody's happy we're alive.
Yeah.
I
didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay. Before we get into anything else, I did want to say just really quick, as we are recording here May 7th, 2025, about 10 o'clock in the evening. Turns out Duke Drosy is actually trash.
What did he do?
Duke Drosy is apparently being investigated and possibly prosecuted for trying to obtain child pornography.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, fuck that guy. I bought a shirt and an autograph from him a couple of years ago because he seemed all right. Like he lost his foot and I felt bad for him. So, fuck him.
Fuck him.
Oh, we lose both of his feet and both of his hands.
But yeah, you mentioned Rigamus. I'll just read his comments here real quick. Thank you again, Rigamus, for caring that we're alive.
I feel like you're Rigamus, but that's okay.
I am not Rigamus. I swear to God, that is not the thing. Not the thing. He said the Sid Vicious Whirly Bird was the best thing all night, although the bump Fatu took from the Doomsday device was pretty sick. I agree.
Yes.
LOL, the Dick Slater comparison to Mr. Pibb is hilarious.
Thank you.
And overall, Clash 8, he said, I thought the show was pretty good. The SST versus Road Warriors was good. Sid looked impressive. The Steiners are awesome, and Garvin is underrated as a worker. I don't like Michael Hayes, but hey, it is what it is. It was a good match. Dr. Death and Rotunda was actually pretty good. Pillman and Norman had a good match. Shaw is an underrated worker, to be honest, and Norman ended up getting over. Everyone loves Missy, but I'm a mark for woman. Terrible segment, but it did the job of making women seem heelish, and it's okay because they're both nice to look at. Agreed. Luger and Rich had a good match. The main event was a good match, and the plastic bag gimmick is one of the most memorable moments in wrestling history. So, thank you, Rigamus, again for your comments and your support. Anybody that wants to, you can join us on the WNR Podcast Network on YouTube. Feel free to comment. You can also join us on our Facebook group as well. Actually, right now I have an NWA Champions Tournament going on in the Facebook group that you can vote on every single day. So check out the Facebook group as well if you have not. We will. You asked to come in, we will let you in.
Yes.
Before we get into the Clash itself, let's get in the time capsule. Let's get in the time machine, the Wayback Machine, movies and music from November 1989.
All right. The songs are the number one and number two songs are by the same band. So in '89, the band Roxette was killing it.
I
You know
remember
that band
Roxette.
Roxette?
Yeah, the lead
You know
singer
them?
girl had like a spike haircut.
They all did back then, for the most part. Um, but the number two song was "The Look," so that's probably that. She's got to look. She's
I
got
assume
to look.
so. Yep.
Yeah. And then the number one song was "Listen to Your Heart." That fucking song sucks. I hate that song.
Well, I would
Listen to
not.
your heart.
I would have not. Yeah, I would have not guessed either one of those because when I
Yeah.
was thinking like fall to winter of '89, I had Milli Vanilli and the B-52s in my brain, so I wouldn't have got any
Well,
of that right.
neither one of those were the number one or number two songs, but the number one and the number two movie are fucking fantastic. They're both funny as shit. Do you want to guess number two? Or do you want to guess either one of them? It's all right if you don't.
November '89. Let me think. Give me just a second. I'm thinking in my head. Everybody out there is being impatient with me trying to think here.
You might get
Mm,
number two, but I don't think you're gonna get number one, which is okay because this is an underrated fucking movie.
number two, November '89. Man, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank.
Well, the number two movie in America was Back to the Future 2.
No, fantastic. Back to the Future. Love Back to the Future. All three of them.
All three of them. I think the third one gets some hate, and it shouldn't.
It shouldn't. It's still a good. It's a fine film. It's fun.
It's a fine
I
film.
mean, you're watching a fucking Back to the Future movie. It's 90 minutes of fun. You know what I mean? Yeah. Don't
Yeah,
over. I hate it when people overanalyze a movie that should not be overanalyzed.
yeah. It's like the concept of the movie is stupid to begin with.
Right.
Shut the
Yes.
fuck up. It's like when people are like, in Star Wars, you wouldn't hear the lasers in space
Yeah. Well,
because
that would
there's
be
no
boring.
sound. Yeah, shut the fuck up. And there's little bears and shit that people can understand even though they're not speaking English. Shut the fuck up. Like everybody in Star Wars knows every language.
Yeah.
That's not possible. But anyway,
You know, that's funny. It's not funny. It's just nerdy. It's my nerdiness. But you're right about Star Wars. And everybody knows how much I love Star Wars. Star Wars is my jam sandwich. Star Wars is my fucking religion. But that's one thing, Star Trek, because I'm not a Trekkie, but I have watched all Star Trek. That's one thing Star Trek does better than Star Wars is little things like that. Like Star Trek actually explains why everybody understands everybody. But anyway,
is it because they're all like intertwined now or whatever?
no, at the there's a series that is like about the first Enterprise that first makes contact with alien species, and there's like a chip thing that makes it like it's like a universal translator that they have where
Yeah.
everybody can understand everybody else. And there's times where civilizations will meet with them and they haven't yet had the chip thing and they don't know what they're saying, so they actually even integrate that into the story. Anyway,
Yeah, like a update.
yeah.
Like everybody's like, oh, like they plug in their translator and it's like, you have 7 updates. Jesus Christ.
I can speak Morkdak now.
Yeah.
Number
That's one of
one.
my. Oh, I'm
Go ahead.
sorry. I was gonna say the Day the Earth Stood Still, that movie.
Mhm.
I love when that guy shows up, like the alien shows up, and he's got he like takes out his machine and to like destroy it because they didn't know what he had, and they're like,
Yeah.
and he's like, oh, that machine would have ended all of war and everything, and like the first thing we do is just fucking destroy it
Yep.
because we don't know what it is. It's so fucking funny. But anyway, the number one movie at this time in America was a funny movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I think it's funny, and it's an Eddie Murphy movie.
Harlem
You want to
Nights.
guess? Yes,
Okay, yeah.
Harlem
Once
Nights.
once you said Eddie Murphy, yeah, I was able to put it together.
Oh, it's just a good fucking movie.
It is. I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it in a long time, but you're right. That's a good movie.
Fucking Red Fox is in it. Like Eddie got all of his buddies and like all of the like African American like comedians from his childhood in it, and it's such a good fucking movie.
Hmm.
Red Fox is fantastic in it.
I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go watch it now because, like I said, I have not watched that movie in a minute. It's been a long
Why?
time since I've watched that
Why'd you
movie.
take one swig out the orange juice and put it back in? Like, when he's yelling back and forth with was it Della Reese or whatever?
Yeah.
Like fat bitch. Oh, I love Red Fox. But yeah, Harlem Nights is a great fucking movie. And if you people have never seen it, go watch it. It's fantastic. I love the boxer character in it where he's stuttering. What's his? I can't remember his fucking name. But
No, I
yeah,
can't either.
Harlem Nights. Harlem Nights, great fucking movie.
So that being said, there's your movies. There's your music. It's time to discuss the Clash of the Champions 9. Again, November 15th, 1989, Troy, New York, at the Houston Fieldhouse in Troy, which is still open, by the way.
Yeah. Back then it was the I don't know what RPI stood for, but it was the RPI Fieldhouse, and they changed it to the Houston Fieldhouse. But yeah, it's still there, and I always thought it's funny because like people like make fun of it because like it's like, oh, they called it New York Knockout, and they weren't anywhere in New York City. It's like, well, they technically didn't call it the New York City Knockout.
Right. Yeah. They're in
They
the
called it
state.
the New York Knockout. They're in the state, and according to reports I read, they drew 4,000 people. And I didn't mean to step on you
Yeah.
when we were talking about it, but they used the same set at the Starcade that's coming up. But
Yes.
I always thought this was like one of the coolest sets that I've ever seen in wrestling.
Yeah.
Like,
I
that was
wrote down,
a
I did write
cool
down,
set, man.
I did write down here they have the cool futuristic steps and ramp set that you
Yeah,
think.
it's
See,
badass.
it's funny too because I always forget that they had this set at this Clash. I always, in my brain, just think of that as the Future Shock set
Yeah.
until I watch this, and I'm like, oh yeah, they actually used this somewhere other than Future Shock.
Yeah,
Which
and they didn't use it.
we'll get into the Future Shock concept in a little bit. I have wrote down to discuss that, but
And they didn't use it too much after that I remember, but it's like, man, they kind of should have used that a little bit more because it was a cool looking set, and Bischoff deals it years later because it's almost if people don't know what we're talking about, if you've ever watched the '97 Sold Out, it's kind of similar to that,
mm-hmm.
but I liked it. I thought it was cool looking.
Something different, you know,
Yeah.
not just the same old walk down the aisle. So the show opens with some snippets from some obviously the main event of this show. Anybody that's got any salt as a wrestling fan or a classic wrestling fan, an 80s, 90s wrestling fan, knows the main event of this show. 2 words, 5 letters. I quit. It's I quit. Ric Flair and Terry Funk for the world title. And we show some promos, some snippets of promos to start the show from those two men. And the commentary team here is Jim Ross and Gordon Soley. And I put down it was appropriate to have Gordon be on play-by-play with JR for this show, and I'm sure JR fucking loved it.
I'm sure he did too. And I love me some Gordon Soley, so when I say it, don't get me wrong or get it twisted or whatever, but this is where it started kind of getting away from what the product was to what his announcing style is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like,
Notice they've moved. They've gradually moved Bob Cottle away from the play-by-play as well. You
yeah,
know, it's not a knock on Gordon. It's not a knock on Bob Cottle. You know how much I love Bob Cottle too, whose wife just passed away. So I'm afraid he's probably not long for this world. You know how it goes with those people that have been together like 60 years and they're in their 90s or
yeah.
whatever.
And
Once
Bob's
one of
got
them,
it. I'm surprised Bob. I don't want to sound terrible when I say it, but I'm surprised Bob Cottle's still around.
yeah, 94.
Jesus.
And like I said, his wife just passed away. So I don't mean to be morbid, but I'm sure he's not long for the world. Again, a lot of those times where people have been together for 70 years or whatever in their later ages, once one leaves, the other one's not far behind. I get it. But anyway, not to bring the room down, but yeah, you're right. The it's not a knock on Soley. It's not a knock on Cottle. It's just a matter of, again, the product moves past everybody. You know, time marches on.
Yeah,
You can't fight time. That's the one thing we can't fight. You know,
that and City Hall.
Gordon Soley wasn't going to be, stone cold,
Stone Cold.
kicking ass.
Yes.
Look out,
It's
Mister
the
McMahon.
NWO. It's the
Yeah.
NWO.
The
But Gordon
first.
did a good job on this show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The first match out the chute. It's the Fabulous Freebirds versus the Road Warriors. There isn't much to this match, actually, for the teams, considering the teams that are involved.
Yeah, not really. I mean, it is what it is, and Ellering's with them, and we're not too far from them leaving. I don't
No,
think.
no. Well, I was just thinking about it.
I
So
think we
this
get like one more clash with them.
this clash. By the
I
time we
think.
get to the next clash, we're in February, and by then Ole's the booker. You don't have the booking committee anymore, and by SummerSlam '90, they're in the WWF. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so they're not long for the NWA. Maybe a little longer than I was thinking. Um, but
I'm pretty sure they leave. I'm pretty sure they leave by May or June of '90.
yeah, so they're about out of there. So the Road Warrior bubble's about to bust because they were still cool when they got to Vince, but they weren't as cool as what they were in the NWA WCW.
Yeah,
Um, basically, the story of the match is the quickness and underhanded tactics of the Fabulous Freebirds versus the power of the Road Warriors. Um, a lot of the match is the Birds double teaming Animal. And as it goes on, Hawk gets frustrated and he ends up pushing Tommy Young. And the Road Warriors get disqualified, and the Freebirds are your victors.
yeah, yeah. Like
Excuse
I
me, anything
said,
you were going to say about it, but
no, I didn't have much. I didn't have much to say about it. I pretty much put down the crowd is really hot for this, and this is a hot crowd the whole night. But this is a good start. Hot, the crowd's hot, and then I wrote down the match is what it is. Hawk gets frustrated, knocks down Tommy Young for the disqualification, and that's pretty much it. Like, I think they put this match on the card just to open the show. You know, there didn't seem to be much substance to it, really.
oh yeah, you put the Road Warriors out there, you're going to get that Road Warrior pop right out the start,
Mm-hmm.
and fans will be into it. You know, people like I don't know if it's still the same way anymore because wrestling's different now, but the opening match used to be just as important as the main event. You know,
Yep. That's why Vince
like
McMahon.
Tito. Yeah, it's like Tito said when he got butthurt about being in the opening match of WrestleMania, and Vince is like, Tito, man, you go out there, get them off their ass
Mm-hmm.
right from the start.
You can wrestle Valentine for the Intercontinental title any night.
Yeah, get out there and get them off their ass. So you open the show with the fucking Road Warriors.
You open the show with Playboy Buddy Rose and the most awkward mask in wrestling history. But anyway,
and one of the shittiest promos.
Yeah, gotta go for the knee. To think the knee maybe might go for the knee.
I think maybe, I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, the indecisive executioner.
Oh, you bet you're sure I'm gonna go for the knee.
Maybe I might. Maybe
I might. I don't know why I made him Minnesota and he's from Portland, but
the next thing on this show is Jim Ross interviewing Terry Funk and Gary Hart. Terry Funk runs down, the differences between himself and Ric Flair. He's like these people in Texas. He likes pick 'em up trucks and et cetera, et cetera. But they do a little foreshadowing here with Gary Hart telling Terry Funk not to let down Texas. Don't let down Gary Hart and don't let down Texas.
Yeah, I ride coach, you ride first class.
Yeah.
What else? I don't remember what else he says, but yeah, Terry's just ingraining himself with the fans, and like you said, it's foreshadowing. Like Gary Hart's foreshadowing what's to come, and Terry's kind of baby facing himself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even because Flair's going to turn, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like he wants to get the people a little sympathetic towards him going into the match.
And that's why a lot of times, and again, I love this feud. I think it's great. It's one of the great, of course, we all know it's one of the great rivalries of all time on wrestling television in the 80s. But it's until he got older, at least I don't know, maybe you disagree with me. But until he got older, until he got into the sympathetic guy against Bischoff or the sympathetic guy with Shawn Michaels or whatever in the WWE, it's always hard to buy Flair as a face. I don't know why. But this feud, they managed to do it well. But a lot
they did do it well.
To me, it's hard to buy Flair as a face a lot of the time. Because his character's just so fucking evil.
And I don't want to sound negative about it because you've known me obviously since I was a kid. Flair was always one of my favorite guys.
Mm-hmm.
But babyface Flair is kind of boring.
Yeah, because he can't be Ric Flair.
Yeah, he's just like, I really love my kids and my wife. And
he's got his belt and he's in his suit. He's got his belt and he's in his suit, but he's not Ric Flair. God damn it!
Yeah. It's like I want to know that you're slanging dick across the country, man.
I want you to tell me you have better cars than me. I want you to, you know what I mean?
I want you to shut the fucking bars down and fucking sling a Rolex into spaghetti. I don't want to hear about you wondering if your kids are gonna be okay tomorrow.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, and when we say that, still at the end of the day, bell to bell.
Oh yeah, we're not taking. I'm in no way taking anything away from Flair. I would never would. But yeah, I just like I said, to me, babyface Flair is always hard to buy, except that this Terry Funk thing, man.
Yeah, because he fucking slammed him on his neck. And you're like, oh man, he got hurt in that plane. And you're fucking with him now.
So and then we get Bill Apter from Pro Wrestling Illustrated along with Jim Ross. And he is presenting the Most Popular Wrestler of the Year award to Sting and the PWI Wrestler of the Decade award to the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
Yeah, and PWI. It's funny because like PWI in the magazines always gave like more love to like New York, but like on TV and shit, they always gave a little like we never saw Bill Apter on WWE or
Oh,
WWF
no.
television.
Well, when Vince McMahon created the WWF magazine, he kicked the magazine guys out. Like, he had a very,
That's what I'm
very.
saying.
He had
Like they always put Hogan on the cover, but then when you opened it up, it's like, oh, Ric Flair is the wrestler of the decade
yeah.
because they're allowing you to be on their show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm
Yeah,
battling
yeah,
or
and
whatever,
I listened to like Bob Smith's interview with Bill Apter, because obviously him and Bill Apter are buddies because they worked together at PWI. And
yeah,
Apter said there were times, and it's kind of like Vince was the same way with like Meltzer and them. Depending on how business was, when business was like down, he was more friendly with the magazines and the sheets. He was more
yeah,
welcoming. But when business was good, I don't fucking need them. I got my own magazine. I got, you know what I mean? So it's Vince, he was,
yeah.
in 94, he's like, come on in, Bill, take some pictures, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And then this might sound stupid, and you might not even know who I'm talking about. But when I saw Bill Apter, I was like, what does Bill Apter look like? And you know what he looks like?
Hmm.
He looks like the secondary bad guy from Batman Returns. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So, yeah. Like, I was just looking at him, like, I gotta write down what this guy looks like. Yeah, he's the secondary bad guy from Batman Returns. He's like the guy that set the penguins out.
That guy was in so much stuff, and I don't know his name. He's one of those people
Yeah,
whose faces I recognize because in the 80s and early 90s, he was in like all
he's
kinds
in
of TV
everything.
shows and movies. And
Yeah, he's the secondary Batman villain. That's what I've always known him as.
well, after this, we get Jim Ross interview, introduces Woman, and she cuts a promo on Doom being dominant. And of course, she has her new team since we last had a Clash of the Champions. She brought her team in to feud with the Steiners, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, it's one of the Maxon brothers. Is a consensus with the Maxon brothers. We don't agree on everything, but one thing we agree on is one of the best tag teams ever is the Team of Doom.
Yep, and I'm glad you knew what she talked about because I was like, woman cuts a promo, and I don't even know what she was
She is
talking about
way
because I was
live.
just like, look at that fucking outfit, man. I was like, all right, that's what an 89 hot chick looked like.
Yep. That's a cover girl right there.
Yeah, buddy.
So, a couple of notes I
That
have.
was literally, I was like, I have no idea what she just talked about.
So it's Doom.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, it's Doom
I know
with
the match. The
with
promo. No words.
Doom with terribly overdubbed music on the Peacock
Yeah.
against Tommy Rich and Eddie Gilbert. And one of my notes here is Rich and Gilbert sounds like a country group.
And they looked like one. And one of my notes was something that I've mentioned every time we talk about a WCW anything from like 86 to like 92. Do you know what it is?
Mm-mm.
there is always some sort of tuxedo.
Yeah. Actually, now that you say it, yes, you're right.
And woman was brought out by not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 men in tuxedos.
They
Why the
love
fuck
the.
was this company so obsessed with fucking tuxedos?
It's almost like because they go through multiple bookers and multiple vice presidents of talent or whatever. It's almost like
Every
Ted.
single one of them was
It's almost
fucking
like no.
tuxedos.
I was gonna say it's almost like everybody knew Ted Turner likes tuxedos or something.
Apparently, somebody in that company that was in charge, in the higher ups, was like, I don't care what you do. Put a bag on his head, poke his eye with a spike,
Hanoi Jane likes tuxedos.
say some racial slurs, do all of that, but make sure you get a tuxedo on the show. And this one had 6 of them.
Overachieving.
But anyway,
I don't have many notes for the match other than Doom pins Tommy Rich with kind of a reverse Doomsday.
yeah, that's what I put a modified Doomsday.
But the match
My
was
note,
fine. It was what it was,
my note was I liked everybody involved in this match. The glaring thing that I didn't like in '89, other than the um, influx of tuxedos, was we saw it either this one or a couple clashes ago. I am a huge fan of Eddie Gilbert, so when I say this, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of the same ilk that we were talking about Flair. It's like I don't really care about Eddie Gilbert if he's a babyface.
Mm-hmm.
Like Eddie Gilbert shouldn't be feuding or fighting
I,
Doom.
I
He
hate
should
to
be
say
with him.
this. I hate to say this, and you might tell me, and Chad might too, if Chad were here. You might tell me that I'm full of shit. I love Eddie Gilbert. I love Eddie Gilbert in Memphis. I love Eddie Gilbert in early ECW. I love Eddie Gilbert in Continental. I love Eddie Gilbert in Global. I hate to say this, but I don't think Eddie Gilbert was meant to be a mainstream wrestling superstar. I think Eddie Gilbert was meant to be not indie because a territorial type wrestler and then a booker. It just never
Yeah.
translated in the big leagues. Am I
What 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 Eddie should have been was put Eddie Gilbert in charge of your creative and then let him manage a group
Yeah.
of guys.
Yep. Be a shit heel mouthpiece.
Be a shitheel mouthpiece.
And then
And,
because he's who
and,
he is and can work, he can get beat up properly.
yeah, he's the guy that shit talks for 4 months the Steiner brothers and then Rick gets in the cage.
Mm-hmm.
And he was totally misused when he was in WCW in like 88, 89, 90. He was totally misused.
And using the word misused with him, he's to blame for his own he wanted to be, he was part of the booking committee. He could have easily said, this is what I should be doing. I think he had a little bit of an ego and he thought that he could be, you know what I mean? He could be a mainstream babyface.
Lawler. I thought he was Jerry Lawler.
Yeah. And it just didn't work. Again, I say this with all reverence, not shitting on Eddie, because man, I can go watch Eddie be a shit heel in Continental all day fucking long. And it's entertaining as hell in a Southern wrestling promotion. But for mainstream wrestling, yeah, it just didn't work. What he did.
It's kind of the same thing where somebody lost the plot on where they were at, and maybe should have. Oh, maybe it's not. I was gonna say it's kind of like Raven and WWF. Like if Raven would have listened and understood what Vince wanted to do with him, he probably would have had a better career there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does.
anyway.
Doom wins that match. And then I wrote down for this next segment, I like everybody involved in this segment, but I hate this segment. It's the Louisville Slugger segment with Jim Cornette, and I absolutely can't stand smiley Jim Cornette anyway.
I know why they did it though.
Because okay, give me a minute, and I'll let you explain why you think that is. To me, it is hard being a Jim Cornette fan to watch Jim Cornette watch Rick Steiner be such a fucking idiot and not comment on what a fucking idiot he is. It's awkward. It's weird. Like Jim's like smiling and trying to play into the joke instead of making jokes, and it just didn't fucking work. I did not like this.
I didn't like it too much either, but I kind of feel like I know why Jim or whoever decided to do it this way did it that way.
Okay.
And it's because in like 2 segments he's about to turn heel.
Right.
Even though it's not going to be a heel turn for the crowd, but for the TV show. Like
for the purpose of the story, yes.
If you're a non-wrestling fan watching the show, if Jim Cornette would be making fun of these guys, a couple of segments later, you'd have been like, oh, yeah, I knew that guy was going to hit him with the racket, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But in this segment, he's supposed to be a happy-go-lucky guy. What I thought was weird was Rick, like, completely overtaking the promo.
Right. The one thing of significance here is they finally named the Frankensteiner.
Yeah, and Jim's trying to get it out of Scott.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Rick just keeps overtaking the promo. And Rick does an okay job with it. But he's like, oh, and like Jim's like, hey, Scotty, we've seen you do this great move. What's it called? And Scott tries to explain it, and then Rick takes it away, and just Rick keeps stealing the fucking promo from him.
Yeah, Rick's like, we used to watch them horror movies and them scary movies, and there was that, and then the people would go, and then the monster would go, and I'm just like, this is weird. I don't like this. What the fuck is going on?
Man, it's like you said. We finally, out of all that retardedness, got the Frankensteiner name, and it was funny when Ricky said, "Woman says," everybody says everybody wants it. Well, I had it, and once I had it, now I don't want it. Like that was kind of.
And they, of course, mentioned
I had the sex with the woman, and
and of course they're going to have the match with the skyscrapers coming up. And then Jim Cornette, like Aaron said, now it's time for Jim Cornette's moment of truth at the Clash of the Champions. We have the dynamic dudes, Shane Douglas, Johnny Ace against the Midnight Express, both managed by Jim.
Actually wears the board or rides the board to the ring.
He does.
Oh. Johnny, good job, buddy.
Guess what he did? He figured it out.
You figured it out. I put the foot here and the foot there. And then I
figured it out.
It. The trajectory takes me down the ramp.
And then the Dynamic Dudes get to come out to the strange WWE Network version of their music, where it's like bow, bow,
Yeah,
bow,
it's supposed
bow,
to be Wild
bow,
Thing.
bow. I know, but it's like
Wipeout, not Wild Thing.
yeah,
Wipeout.
yeah. It's like it overpowers everything that you're seeing, and it's fucking crazy. It's one of those crazy network themes.
It's kind of like Johnny's mullet. It overpowers everything that you see.
And like we mentioned before, discussing the Dynamic Dudes, without the
Give him something else.
skateboards,
Great.
oh,
I was gonna say, give him something else. Just Johnny and Shane. Great fucking team.
yeah, absolutely. They were just saddled with the man. Like they were like the Techno Team 2000 of their generation.
Yeah.
I know you don't like Eric Watts, but I actually thought Techno Team 2000 as a team was a pretty good tag team, but they were saddled with that
Nobody likes
stupid
Eric
gimmick.
Watts. Bill Watts doesn't even like Eric Watts.
That's my boy, but but yeah, Jim Cornette.
I guess Bill Watts does like him because when he got inducted, he was like, "I want my big and Eric stand up." Fuck Eric Watts.
But anyway,
Garbage.
back to Clash 9. Dynamic Dudes, Midnight Express. It's a good tag team match. Jim Cornette is in the neutral corner, quote unquote, to start the match. And it's obvious from the beginning what's probably going to happen here. But
What should happen?
yeah, like I said, good tag team match. I don't have many notes on the action other than, I watched the match. I enjoyed the match. But obviously, Jim Cornette winds up hitting Shane Douglas with the racket so that the Midnight Express can defeat the Dynamic Dudes. And now all is right with the world again.
Yeah,
I don't know whose decision it was to ever put Jim Cornette with the Dynamic Dudes, but it was a dumb decision to begin with.
I don't know whose idea it was either, but going into it, I mean, at the end of the day, him hitting Shane with that racket, it got the biggest fucking pop of the night. So
yeah.
Good for them. But yeah, it was putting the midnight back with Jim, and whoever's idea it was, I'm assuming
Probably Jim Hurd.
probably
Just because I'd have to go back and I'm sure Cornette's
Jim
addressed
Hurd was
it on a
booking at this
drive-through.
point. Hurd was booking at this point, or not booking, but in charge at this point.
Yeah, he had the committee, quote unquote, but go back and I probably could go back and listen to a shoot interview or an episode of the drive-through and hear Cornette rant about it and find that out on my own, but because he hates Jim Hurd just about as much as he hates Vince Russo. The next match on the show, once again, donning the mask, Jack Victory. On this Clash of the Champions, he is the Super Destroyer. Facing Dr. Death Steve Williams. Norman is out playing Santa Claus.
I've given Norman a new name.
Okay.
He's not a trucker. He's not a lunatic. He's not a monk. You know what I think he is?
What?
I think he's a pervert.
Norman the pervert.
Norman the pervert. I think he's a child molester. Like he's got like toys and shit that's like how do I say it? Like say you would have like a group of kids that were getting ready to like have like a soccer tournament. Who would you want to run it? The guy that was like, "Oh, kids are fucking annoying. I don't want anything to do with them," or the guy that like shows up with like stuffed animals and orange slices. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you're way too prepared. I'd rather have the guy that doesn't want to do it at all.
And then he get and then you hire him for the job. Not only does he have the toys and the orange slices, but he shows up in a panel van.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I don't fucking like anything about you. But some guy that's just like, fuck these kids. I don't. Jesus Christ, why do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather have the dad that drew the short straw.
God,
fuck,
damn
man.
it.
God damn it. I gotta work tomorrow. I gotta watch these fucking kids play soccer for fucking 8 hours in the fucking sun. And some other guy's like, I got Capri Suns. Who wants them? Yeah. Fucking Norman's coming out with a fucking saddlebag full of fucking toys. Norman the pervert.
Well, Dr. Death wins this short match with the Stampede. Up
and then
next,
he celebrates with Norman the pervert.
Yes, celebrates with Norman the pervert. And then the next match is the aforementioned Skyscrapers versus Steiner Brothers match.
There's some good shit in this fucking match, dude.
There sure is. I did want to mention, just for the record, you know, the Freebirds were announced at the beginning of the show as the tag team champions, but they didn't have their titles. And there's a reason for that. Jim Ross does mention, as this match gets going, that the Steiners are set to get a title shot this Saturday on TBS. Well, the match had actually happened like 2 weeks before. WCW, everybody. So technically the Steiners are already the champions. They've already beaten the Freebirds for the titles. Just wanted to mention that as a point of history, you know, just to document history.
Ricky rips off Teddy Long's hat, and it gets one of my favorite chants.
Oh, I didn't notice a chant.
Oh, yeah, he rips his hat off, and it's one of my favorite chants that any heel manager ever got. I loved when people would chant Peanut Head at Teddy Long. But he rips his hat off and puts it on, and the fans are like, Peanut Head, Peanut Head. I don't know why Peanut Head is so funny to me, but it
is. Excuse me. I also liked the touch of Rick Steiner, even though him and his brother are tag team partners and brothers, Rick Steiner coming out through the crowd.
Yeah.
You know, I like that. Yeah, I like that little touch, you know, because he is that's his character. Like he's the
zany one.
He's the doofus of the people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's a badass doofus. Don't get me wrong. But that's the gimmick, and I liked it. I liked him coming through, and Scotty not coming through the people with him. It didn't make Scotty bad. It just shows you the brothers are brothers, but they're different.
Mm-hmm. And what I don't know if you want to, if you only talk about the spot that I.
Oh no, go ahead with the
watch this match where I was like, Jesus fucking Christ! It was the spot where, like, you already knew Scotty was a fucking freak, but when he hits that Frankensteiner on Spivey and then flip slams fucking Sid Vicious, you're like, Jesus fucking Christ.
This is actually the match.
Fucking insane.
This is the match Sid got injured, and the reason he's replaced at one point by Mean Mark.
Yeah,
I think it's he hit. I don't know what happens. I'd have to look it up, but he gets some kind of an injury during this match, and that's why
him doing that fucking. I don't even know. I mean, it's a flip slam, but I don't know what you'd call it if you were talking about like gymnastics or whatever. But like this fucking backflip with Sid and his fucking arms like a baby. Jesus Christ. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't know if you people understand how big Sid Vicious was in like 1997.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
But look
yeah,
at that guy in 1989,
that's what I was gonna say.
and Scotty
Aaron,
flipped
Aaron,
him.
Aaron, and I saw Sid live, and as a human being, if Aaron and I stood side by side, Sid is probably just as wide as us side by side. That's a big fucking guy,
And put me on your shoulders, and we're not as tall,
right?
probably. Like, this guy's a fucking house. And Scotty stood on his feet and did a complete backflip with him in his fucking arms, holding him like a fucking baby. It was fucking nuts. Like, I like I don't want to get too much into it, but I watched it and then I paused it because I had to like write my notes. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, that was insane. But, all right.
But yeah, like I said, like we said, the match is great for how long it lasts. It doesn't last too long because as it really gets going, Doom comes out for a disqualification and attacks the Steiners. Woman hits Rick Steiner with her shoe.
Which does nothing.
Yeah, which does nothing. But it is an impetus for the big guy. Who's this big guy? Sometimes I like to do my Jim Ross. And it is Nitron, of course.
Who became nothing.
Who became nothing, which I don't know. I can't judge him because he never did a lot. Maybe he would have. Maybe he could have been. He had a good look.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Like, when I was a kid and I didn't know anything, and then I got older, for like a minute, do you know who I thought Nitron was?
No.
For like a minute, I was like, oh, that was Kevin Nash. That was Diesel.
I can
For
see what
some
you're
reason,
saying. I can see what you're
it,
saying, though.
like 94 me was like when I saw like Nitron on like a tape.
Mm-hmm.
That was Kevin Nash before he became Diesel. And then I realized pretty
No.
quick, I'm like,
Yeah.
that wasn't.
Yeah, that wasn't Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
And of course, then
But that was stupid me. I thought it was Kevin Nash.
the Road Warriors come out to make the save for the Steiners, and then when we come back from the break, Jim Ross is talking to the Steiner brothers and the Road Warriors on Starrcade coming up. They talk about the Future Shock concept, kind of not the concept. They don't say concept, but they talk about the Future Shock and Hawk. I love a good fucking Road Warrior Hawk line. And he says, Doom, skyscrapers, if I were you, I wouldn't want to be. I love a fucking good Hawk line, man. I love a good Hawk one-liner, and that was a good one.
Usually what he says makes no sense.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody else would
It
say it.
It doesn't
But when
matter.
he says it, it makes sense.
Yes.
Oh, what a booger.
What a booger.
But when he says it, makes complete sense.
But yeah, I love that line. If I were you, I wouldn't want to be. So, because they talked about it, and they're going to talk about it a couple more times during these next couple of matches, what is your opinion? They only did it once, but what is your opinion of that Future Shock concept, other than the fact that it fucked Muda?
It's match wise, it's good. But conceptually, for like an American crowd, it doesn't do its job. Like it's very much a I don't want to say it. It's kind of how Japan books, or booked at the
Right.
time.
Right.
You know what I mean? But Japan did it over time sometimes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, we're gonna have this big tournament,
Yes.
and it's a point system, and it's gonna make sense at the end of it. But they didn't during the show. They didn't explain it well enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I agree with you. Like I like literally my kind of notes or thoughts on it or whatever is good in concept, bad in execution.
You take that thing and put it on like WCW Pro
And stretch it out over.
and do it for like a month,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool
Mm-hmm.
and interesting. But you try to do it in a night, it's too much. And the people in the building are gonna have no fucking idea what you're talking about.
The people in the building, like, what the fuck? I mean, these matches are good, but what the fuck is even this?
Yeah. It's like it's like that viral video of that old meme where what the fuck is even that? You know what I'm
Yes.
talking about?
Yes.
What the hell is he when that guy's like, Daddy
What?
don't or Daddy please?
What
He's like,
hell? What
what
the
the
hell
hell is
even is
even
this?
that? What the hell is even that? Like that's what the crowd was looking at. And it's almost like WrestleMania 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like they put it in front of that audience that wasn't a wrestling audience
Yeah.
and built this tournament, and a lot of that crowd had no idea what the fuck was going on. It's like, oh, we've watched Randy Savage wrestle 4 times. What the fuck?
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know if I'm over explaining how I feel about Future
No.
Shock,
No.
but that's what if you're a fan and you know what you're looking at, you understand it. But if you're a novice or you're somebody sitting in the crowd watching a show for 3 hours, you don't fucking understand this point system and this, that, and the other thing. It's like, what the fuck?
Well,
Why'd
I'm
that
gonna
match last 5 minutes?
I'm gonna tell you this. I'll tell you. It's been 36 years and I'm still bitter about Future Shock because it fucked Muda. But anyway, the next
What the hell
match
was
on
even that?
the
Gary
next match.
Hart was standing there going, what the hell was even that?
What hell was even that? The great Muta.
My
My
J-Pan got
Japanese.
beat.
My
My
Jap.
Japanese got beat.
My vicious Jap. The next match on this show, really good shit. I don't know why. I don't know if they just really liked each other, if they really understood each other. But man, Lex Luger and Brian Pillman always had a good fucking match.
They did, and I think it's a combination of it. Lex is, at this point, the coolest he's ever been. That
Yes.
fucking outfit
Oh,
he
yeah. We
had,
talked about it
badass.
last week. Yes.
Yeah. And you're not going to have a bad match with this Brian Pillman.
Mm-hmm.
And this Brian Pillman is not going to let you have a bad match.
Right.
Like, I know he got his ankle fused, and later on he wasn't as good as what he was. Like, when he became. It's funny because, like, when I say he wasn't as good as he was, Brian Pillman's like the tale of two wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at this point, he might not have the best psychology, you know,
Yeah.
but he's gonna have the best match you're gonna have on
Yeah.
the
He
fucking
obviously
card.
has the fucking talent. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's gonna have the best fucking athletic match you're gonna have on the card. And then when he got fucked up, then he became more psychology based. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So at this point, he's not gonna have a bad match. And Lex at this point gives a shit, so he
Mhm.
wants to have the best fucking match.
Yep. And Lex
And they do
Lex is willing here to look like to look like the asshole because obviously he wrestles as the heel, he wrestles the asshole. Pillman works from underneath. Lex gives Pillman amazing hope spots during this match. This is a really good fucking match. Like
it
if
is.
if you
And
if nobody's seen it or if you haven't seen it in a long time, I actually wrote down here there. I don't write this down very often. Um, Go back and watch this. This is a really good. This was my favorite match on the. Well, okay, other than Flair and Funk, obviously, but like for the undercard part of the show, with all the talent involved, this was definitely my favorite thing.
yeah, I put like just watching Lex come out and do his thing. If it wouldn't have been stubborn Vince, he should have been this guy in the WWF.
Yeah. Oh man, fuck. I have said for years. You and I have talked about it. We've talked about it when we did some fantasy booking. I think I've done it. I always fantasy book. I always fantasy book babyface Bret Hart versus heel Lex Luger in the WWF in like '94. And
Yeah.
I know that it either takes away or postpones Owen. But this Lex Luger versus babyface Bret Hart in WWF possibly could have made some fucking bank.
Yep. And
um,
I didn't have a lot of notes about the match because it was really good.
mhm.
And I know we've gone over the hour, but what I did was write down what I feel, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. What I feel are Lex Luger's best 5 opponents,
Okay.
and I'm not talking storyline wise. I'm talking match
Mm-hmm.
quality.
Mm-hmm.
These are the 5 guys that I think got the best matches out of it. Okay,
Yeah.
and excuse me, it's Ricky Steamboat,
Okay.
Brian Pillman,
Mm-hmm.
Ric Flair,
Sure, for sure.
Yokozuna, and Hulk Hogan. I don't mind watching Hulk Hogan wrestle Lex Luger.
No, I
Like,
agree.
like baby face Lex Luger, heel Hulk Hogan. It's good shit. Those last 2 might be
I agree with
like controversial or whatever, but
no,
I think they're great.
the only one that I would scratch off, and not that they didn't um have good matches. The only one that I possibly would scratch off would be Yoko. And
I love Yoko
uh, uh,
bumping for
no,
Luger.
I get it. No. I'm not saying it was bad, but as far as a top 5, the only 2 that I would say maybe I would replace Yoko would be Henning or Ron Simmons.
Yeah.
But and I'm not shitting on your list or anything. Yeah, Luger and Yoko was fucking storybook. You know what I mean? That was meant to have. That was meant to be. But I really like Luger's matches with Simmons, and I like the match at WrestleMania. I actually like the match at WrestleMania 9 with Henning.
Yeah, I guess with Kurt, but I'm just thinking about just opponent wise and
Mm-hmm.
just what they did, and
Yeah.
yeah, those would be the 5 guys for me.
So in the match here, like I said, we talked about
Luger's a complete shit.
yes, Luger. um, Luger gets a chair on the outside as Pillman is hanging on the inside and cracks Pillman with the chair, pins him. He lays into Pillman like a good fucking heel after the match with a chair. And then he racks Pillman. And then I put down Sting comes out for the save. Luger gets the mic. Sting grabs the mic. And then Sting insults Lex Luger like your grandmother would. Because Sting called Luger an arrogant snothead.
You arrogant snothead.
I was like, ooh, burn.
Yeah, at first I thought he called him a shithead. I was
No,
like,
he
that's kind of
said,
cool.
you know what
And then
you've
I
been,
rewound it.
what
And I'm
you've been
like,
lately? You've been a real arrogant snothead.
I thought he called him a shithead, and I rewound it. I'm like, no, he didn't. Like, shithead would have been cool. And he said snothead. And then Luger left, and then Sting attacked him from behind. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
And now, after all the other great stuff we've seen during this show, they finish it off with Ric Flair, Terry Funk, I Quit.
No, that's not the name of the match.
All right.
That's the 2 words, 5 letters, I Quit match from New Knock York Out versus Terry Funk.
New Knock York Out. They show, obviously, the pre-recorded comment with Ric Flair in front of what I will always remember as, to me, I don't know why, but that backsplash behind Ric Flair is just cool. I don't know. I love that backsplash behind Flair when he cuts that promo.
Is it the weird looking
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a gray tarp with like, just like you said it earlier, but Andy Warhol style, just like splattered paint across the back of it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool looking backsplash.
Like checkered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talking about, I always remember, like, this is the first, like, NWA, WCW. Like, I know I watched stuff before it, but this is the first thing that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in my final note, not to jump ahead, it was literally, to me, this is WCW. It's Ric Flair, Sting, Lex Luger, Brian Pillman. Arn's going to be coming back. You know, all these guys. Like, this is getting into the WCW for me.
Funk and Flair have this match. Funk and Flair. And I put down, because of Jim Herd, Ric Flair comes out to shitty music that isn't Ric Flair's music. Like,
Yeah.
Why did Jim Herd have this hard on to change Ric Flair? I don't understand.
Why did everybody after 1988? Because Bischoff did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody after the Crockett's wanted to either change him or get rid of him. And it's like, he's the fucking man in this fucking company.
Right.
What's your fucking problem? They have no fucking idea what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Even Vince, to a certain extent.
Like, Herd wanted to get, Vince changed him. But, like, Herd wanted to change
really,
him.
honestly, other than, really all Vince took out of it, though, was the coxman
of it.
Yes. Like, Vince's Ric Flair would wear,
that's what was cool about it.
Sweaters. Instead, he'd be on the yacht, but he'd be in a sweater or something.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I like Flair laying pipe and talking shit. But it's just like, everywhere he went or anything he did after Jim Crockett bounced out, they either wanted to completely change it or neuter it or bury it. I don't fucking understand it.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know if it was jealousy. I mean, I know with Bischoff, a lot of it was Hogan.
Because Hogan was fucking jealous of him.
Yeah, yeah,
He's like, I'm never going to be
absolutely.
as good as that fucking guy.
But yeah, I just really never understood the Jim Herd thing. Like I said, Vince didn't fuck over Flair, and Vince didn't neuter Flair. Vince just changed it for his product, I guess.
Yeah.
But to me, Herd, Russo, and Bischoff are the biggest offenders. Because when he came back to
But
WWE, Vince and Triple H and them let him be Ric Flair again. I mean, obviously he was
yeah.
old, so you have to change it a little bit because he's older. Now he's the elder statesman or whatever. But they treated him with reverence and respect.
Yeah. And this might be the only time I ever defend Vince Russo. But Ric Flair actually put Russo over in his book. Because he said, um, like when they did that shit where they buried him in the desert,
Mm-hmm.
Russo told him that we'll take care of you and we'll pay you for the entire time you're off or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And he said there was like 4 weeks where he didn't get paid. And he called Russo and was like, I thought you told me I was going to get paid. And Russo was like, dude, I didn't know that happened to you. Like, I didn't know Bischoff fucked you over or whatever. And he said, like, a week later, he was made whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's like, Russo
Credit
was
where
like a
credit's
man of.
due.
At the end of the day, is like, was the idea great? And was he a great booker? No. But when it came to like paydays and shit, Russo
Mm-hmm.
made me whole. So good for him, you know? But I think it's also crazy that all these years, everybody tried to take Flair's fucking hair, and the guy that took it was fucking Vince Russo.
Yeah.
What? Anyway,
The match is great. The
it's one of the
psycho
only good I Quit matches ever.
Yes, the psychology is great. Obviously, during the match, psychology wise, Terry Funk's working over the neck as much as he can. Um,
It's funny because like you were talking about like where you talk about like when a match is really good, so you don't have a lot of notes.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like I've watched this match like 75 times in my entire life, so I don't have a lot of notes about it
No,
because it's such a master class in wrestling that you just have
yeah,
to fucking watch it.
like my notes,
And
my notes are, of course, Funk works over the neck. Flair integrates the table into the match, which in the story wise gives Flair some heat back with the table, because the table was what was used to injure him. I think this was the first time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was the first time in a submission match where they used the microphone being in the ring gimmick.
uh,
Like the
maybe
referee or whoever actually putting the microphone up to the wrestlers for an I Quit match.
possibly.
Um,
I can't remember. And I don't think they did it with Mag and Tully.
no, I don't think they had the microphone involved in that. I don't think so. I'd have to go back and watch it now, but I really
I
don't
don't
think
think
they did.
they didn't. That's what I was gonna ask. Was I I said three, okay, and I want to know if you're gonna count it because it technically wasn't called an I Quit match. So it may be three or it may be four. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not a huge fan of the I Quit concept,
Right.
but this match is on my list. Okay. So I quit matches. I would say the only three that I think are good as like standout matches,
Mm-hmm.
are Flair Funk,
Mm-hmm.
Magnum TA, Tully Blanchard. I love
Yep.
that fucking match.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking love it. I
The
know
thing
I'm a
that's great
big
about that match, I don't want to get in the weeds, but the thing that's great about that match is during that match, the greatest psychological thing about that match is that the ultimate babyface, Magnum TA, feels the need to act like a heel. That's
yeah.
that's the that's the that's the cherry on the sundae for that one, you know.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this weapon you brought in, now I'm going to use it against you. It's
Mm-hmm.
good shit. And then um, Rock Foley.
Yeah, obviously.
So the last one I'm going to ask, because they technically didn't call it an I Quit match, is do you consider Hart and Steve an I Quit match?
I do. It's
Okay.
the same
There,
concept. It's just a different name. You know what I
so
mean?
yeah, so that'd be four. There's only been four good I Quit matches.
Yeah.
This one, which is the Grand Puma,
I
you
actually
know.
like Steve and Brett more than this, but that's just a personal thing.
Yeah, but I'm going just off the fact that you're calling it an I Quit match.
Right.
Yeah. And then Steve Brett, and then Magnum Tully, and then Rock Foley. Other than that, I think it's a shitty concept
It
because
is.
they always figured out ways to dick around it or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Or
because
you have
it's
a
good.
situation like honestly, as much as people shit on it, it could have been good. I think honestly, we're getting in the weeds, but I think Bret Hart and Bob Backlund at WrestleMania 11 is actually brought down by the fact that Roddy Piper is the referee.
Roddy did a shitty job. But
And I'm
that
not
match
saying
was
it would have been
boring.
better. I'm not saying it would have been better. I'm just saying to me, he brings down the match as the referee.
Yeah. I don't like that match at all.
Um, so like we were talking about, and anybody that listens to the show has
What do you
watched this match.
say?
What do you say?
What do you say? What you say?
um,
Anyway, sorry.
of course, Gary Hart is playing it up that he's anxious on the outside. Ric Flair works over the leg. He gets the figure four on Funk initially, which pops the crowd, but Funk in grand heel fashion goes to the eyes. I love the suplex spot on the apron. And then the long, elongated figure four. Terry Funk says, I quit. We've all seen the match. We don't have to go into too much detail. And the other thing I like about this is it's not like one thing I will say that even though the match is kind of a like watching a train wreck, you know, what something that brings down Rock and Foley is the fuck finish.
Yeah.
And then obviously after it, the chair shots are just one of those things where you look back in hindsight and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ.
But as you watch it, you're like,
As
Jesus.
90s wrestling fans, we were terrible human beings. Funk just says, I quit. There's no chicanery. There's no bullshit. It's just one wrestler putting over another wrestler because that's what you do.
And then afterwards, he's a man of his word and says, because he said, if you make me say I quit, I'll shake your hand. And Flair did it. And obviously, Gary Hart doesn't want him to do that. But Funk and Seth, and then Gary Hart kicks Terry Funk in his wounded leg, and Terry Funk helps, or Ric Flair helps Terry Funk, and then what does Jim Ross say?
Japanese.
The Japanese
I put down
have
here.
attacked.
I put down here. One of the great gimmicks of all time in wrestling. Jim Ross says it is the JAPANEEEEEEEESE.
The Japanese
Japanese.
have attacked Ric
It's
Flair.
funny that we both thought, like, we both got the new knock York out, and we both got the Japanese.
Ric Flair gets attacked, and Jim Ross just keeps saying the Japanese have attacked.
It's obviously is that the Muda? It's obviously the Great Muda
The Muda,
and the Dragon Master.
the Japanese.
Japanese. It's not even the Japanese. It's just Japanese.
They come out and they attack Ric Flair, and then Sting comes out and he helps Ric Flair, which then brings out Lex Luger, who then attacks Ric Flair and Sting with the help of the
Japanese.
And they lay them out, and then Lex Luger with his chair destroys the trophies of Ric Flair and Sting, and
Big heel beat down at the end.
yeah.
And I put down here, this is, from a booking perspective, the end of this show is an absolutely, whoever there was a committee with Jim Herd, Jim Cornette, Jim Ross, all these Jims, Eddie Gilbert, some other people sprinkled in. But this was clearly the booking committee saying we are flipping the page on the stories we have been telling. We're telling new stories. And at the end, it was good old Southern wrestling heel heat to end the show.
Yeah. I don't want to say that I know what the committee was. I'd have to look it up. But I feel like this is, if I'm looking at this show and the story that was told, I think this was mainly probably Jim Cornette, Jim Ross, and maybe Ole coming back.
Yeah. Ole's not back yet. Ole, between now and when we pick up for Clash 10, he is going to be coming back, but he is actually not back yet at this point.
Right. Just say what you want to say about that guy being curmudgeonly and
in part of my notes
he's a great fucking booker.
Clash of the Champions 10. Spoiler alert for next week for those of you that haven't watched 30 something years
One
later.
of my favorite one-day angles ever.
Yes. There's a segment during that show that is so good. It's absolutely fucking pro wrestling masterpiece theater. But I know we always say at the end, from one clash to another, did we go up? Did we stay status quo? Did we go down? This show absolutely went up from the last show.
I agree.
And that's not shitting on the last show. That's just saying this show was markedly better than the last show. I didn't dislike anything on this show. Nothing. There was nothing on this show I didn't like.
Like I said,
other than like we talked about with the tweaking with Ric Flair, just the little bitching things we can do as wrestling fans. But
yeah, but like I said, from like the military show where I was like, oh, it was the atmosphere, just the show itself, and then going into the next one with like storytelling. This was a good, solid wrestling show.
Absolutely.
With a good story and an advanced shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And we're moving on to new stories.
Yeah. Like it's almost. What was this? What month did we say this was? Sorry.
This is November of '89.
Yeah. So this is almost. I know we talk about it now with the you go to the go home show of WrestleMania. It's the week before WrestleMania. This is almost the This is almost the go home show in the Starcade.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because in wrestling back then, a month away was almost a go home show. So
Right.
it set it up, and it set Luger up as being like, officially Luger's now a shit heel.
Mm-hmm.
He's not he's no longer a snothead.
He's a
He's an actual
snothead.
he's not a snothead anymore. He's an actual prick because he broke people's trophies.
We
And
have the
he's officially turned
Japanese.
against Sting.
We have the
got the
Japanese
We got the Japanese.
established.
Yeah. Good shit, pal.
So that being said, we're going to wrap it up for this week's edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Aaron, do you have any parting words for our listeners?
Yeah. Dorian Gato, Mr. Roboto.
The WNR Podcast Network on Facebook. You can join the group. Again, we do all kinds of interactive things there, wrestling conversation, tournaments that you can vote for, things like that. Maybe my next tournament will be the greatest Japanese.
Yes.
And the WNR Podcast Network on YouTube. You can comment there. If you have any comments for the show, questions for the show, if you enjoy it, if you don't enjoy something we do, let us know. WeCan'tWrestle@gmail.com. Also, of course, check out Reliving the Extreme as we journey through the history of ECW. We're getting closer and closer to our 200th episode, which will be covering the initial Barely Legal pay-per-view. So lots of good shit coming up in 2025 in the WNR Podcast Network. And we will see you next week, everybody, as we head to Corpus Christi, Texas to watch No Yob Mil Mascaras against Captain Jack.
What are you saying? He was Cactus Jack Manson.
Okay, but fucking Capetta introduces him as Captain Jack Manson.
I know he does, but you didn't get it out.
Anyway, we'll see you next week, everybody. Have a great week. And thanks for listening. Thanks for the support of the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
He fired the mother, and the mother didn't fire.